conversations, a guide for new managers. The main reference used in gathering information for this presentation was a book titled Difficult Conversations: How to Discuss What Matters Most. The text was composed by 3 Harvard graduates, Douglas Stone, Bruce Patton, and Sheila Heen. Originally, this book was published in 1999, but since then, this text has been revised by the authors, the last time being in 2010. Since its publication, the book Difficult Conversations has been utilized by a number of organizations around the world to assist in managing the difficulties and challenges that are brought about from working within and across cultures. The main objective with this learning video is to teach the new managers, new and incoming managers, core methods and skills that will give them the ability to effectively and appropriately manage difficult conversations that they have with their employees. An overview of this presentation is going to be, first, what is a difficult conversation? What is a difficult conversation made up of? What makes a conversation difficult? What are different topics that we will see that go into a difficult conversation? We're going to look at the importance of learning how to manage difficult conversations and the benefits that come to you as an employee and to your organization, the benefits of the managers knowing how to effectively deal with difficult conversations with the employees, and how this results to better outcomes. I will provide you with examples and scenarios of difficult conversations that commonly occur in the workplace and where you might find some of those conversations and the likelihood of you having those conversations. The main purpose or the main method that we're going to look into for this presentation is going to be the what happened conversation, where we're going to take a look at the idea of abandoning blame. We're going to explore the concept of contribution. And we're going to look into the idea of paraphrasing for clarity and the importance behind that and how that will help managers engage in conversations with their employees. So first, what exactly is a difficult conversation? A difficult conversation is something that we have all definitely experienced at some point in our lives. It's a conversation in which sensitive matters or material is discussed. So a difficult conversation is a conversation that we would rather not have or we like to try and avoid because they're unpleasant or leave us feeling uncomfortable. Difficult conversations often make the individuals engaged in them feel awkward, uncomfortable, or leave them feeling vulnerable. Many situations in life involve difficult conversations. So, for example, ending a relationship, breaking up with somebody, or possibly the occurrence of you having to give somebody negative feedback about their job performance, which is something you as a new manager will likely find yourself having to do. So some of the common topics that people find difficult to discuss and that often we see difficult conversations resulting from are race, gender, religion, sexuality, and politics. And the reason that difficult conversations really take place or what makes a conversation difficult is our fear of the consequences. What are the consequences that might result from a conversation after? That often is what makes it a difficult conversation. As a manager, you will likely engage in many difficult conversations with your employees and even your coworkers. So it's going to be essential for you to learn and practice different methods and tactics that I'm going to talk about in this presentation when managing difficult conversations, because it to help you avoid other conflicts or more future difficult conversations. So more and more businesses actually are becoming aware of the importance of knowing how to appropriately and effectively engage in difficult conversations, and more and more organizations are actually starting to familiarize themselves with difficult conversations and learning how to engage in them, because the outcome seems to be better. So why exactly should we learn how to manage difficult conversations? First, it's important to improve our ability to effectively engage in conversations and achieve productive results. Learning how to engage in difficult conversations is essential to you as a manager, because you're likely going to find that you have to engage in many difficult conversations with your employees. The conversations can involve a number of issues, so it's going to be important that you learn how to engage in the conversation and make the conversations less stressful and help relieve some of the anxiety that comes with them. And learning the different methods and skills are going to help you more easily engage in the conversations, and it'll help you know how to handle them and how to steer the conversations so that you can avoid more difficult conversations or more conflict coming from it, and instead we'll get happier results and more productive results. So some common difficult conversation topics that a manager might see while working or find themselves engaged in is, since now as a manager you're responsible for the productivity and the efficiency of your employees that you're managing, you're also responsible for telling the employees if they're doing something wrong or if they are not meeting the expectations of the company as an employee. So it's very likely that at some point during the year you'll hold employee evaluations, and during these employee evaluations you'll go over the employee that you're with, their job performance, how they're doing, their good things they're doing, the bad things they're doing. So it's very likely that you are going to have to give negative feedback, which can be uncomfortable when you are telling a person, things that they're doing wrong or something bad about their job performance. That can be uncomfortable for both you and for the person having to hear it. There's the occurrence of inappropriate behavior at work, where an employee of yours might be acting inappropriately, or say being rude or not doing his job how he should be, or maybe not treating other employees how he should be, and that's going to result in you having to talk with that employee about what they're doing, and that conversation will likely be difficult because you don't want to hurt their feelings, and you don't want to accuse them right away and make them feel like they're at blame, and you don't want to offend them in any way, but yet at the same time you still have to get this information out and get your point across. There is a big thing in businesses, and that you as a manager are probably going to have to deal with, is the occurrence of sexual harassment, and that of course is going to result in a difficult conversation. And this here is where we're going to, this would be a conversation where we would really focus in on what we're going to learn next about the abandoning blame, and how when you're trying to figure out something about a case, you don't want to just accuse your employee of doing it. You want to figure out what really happened. So there's also a dress code violation if an employee is not, dressing as they're supposed to, maybe wearing too revealing of clothing, and you have to talk to them about that. That could be a difficult conversation because you both might feel awkward discussing it. And then, of course, there's termination, which is having to fire or let go of an employee, which is something that you will probably have to do at some point during your management career. So we're going to, the book Difficult Conversations tells us that each conversation is really 3 conversations. That's how they have the conversation broken down to. So they've got the what happened conversation, and this is where we're going to spend most of our time exploring and looking at. And then this is also where most of the conversation actually takes place. There's the feelings conversation, where you talk about how to handle our emotions, and then the identity conversation, which is the most challenging conversation, but it focuses on taking a deeper look at who we are and how we see ourselves. But for my presentation, we're going to look over the what happened conversation. The most difficult conversations often involve some sort of a disagreement about what has happened or what should happen. So the what happened conversation is actually where we spend a majority of the conversation in attempting to figure out who is right or who is to blame, what their intentions were, what really happened, what really went down. So trying to find the truth behind what really happened. We want to look at intention, what were their intentions, why what was done was done. Was it on purpose? Was it to be mean? Was it purely an accident, etc.? And then we're going to spend some time talking about blame and the importance of abandoning blame. So first, when we look at abandoning blame, a difficult conversation is more likely to go well and to produce better outcomes if the manager avoids blaming the employee right off the bat. blame actually distracts us from exploring the situation and what's going on, and it also invokes fear in the other individual. So instead of placing blame on an employee and accusing them directly of what's being responsible for the problem or the issue at hand or whatever, a manager could do a couple of things. One of them being place blame explicitly so that it's less confrontational. So say, for example, you're talking to an employee about an order form that was filled out wrong and when someone was doing inventory. So you're talking to the employee, instead of saying, how could you make a mistake like this is so dumb, or this is so wrong of you, whatever, maybe you should say something like, maybe next time it would be a good idea to double check the numbers with the ones on the computer to prevent mistakes like this from happening. So then you're not yelling at your employee like, this is your fault, how do you do this, blah, blah, blah. You're saying, I know that you did this, and maybe you could do this next time, and it just kind of lightens it up a little bit. When an individual, or you as a manager, when you're quick to place blame on the employee, the conversation has higher risk of becoming even more difficult than it was before, because new conflict has been brought into the conversation because now the employee might feel ambushed or like they're being accused. Blame mostly occurs because the manager, you as the manager, are just assuming that what you know is true instead of actually analyzing the situation and other possible reasons. So it's really important that when you are looking at the blame aspect of the conversation, that you not only look into what other variables could have contributed, or not only what other variables could have contributed to the problem, but if your facts are really true and if there's any biases happening or taking place there. So that kind of moves us into exploring contribution, and this is where you as a manager are going to look at and see, is there anything that I did that resulted in this happening? Maybe I didn't explain something thoroughly enough, and therefore there was misunderstandings and this mistake occurred. Or, were you doing your job to make sure that things were getting double checked, or that your employee was doing their job accurately? And then you want to really pay attention to and practice paraphrasing for clarity, because this is going to be really important in the job context, because you want to clarify what you would have your employee do differently. So the employee who mismarked the inventory and accidentally ordered too much product, instead of blaming them, you want to look and see if there's anything that you did wrong, what other factors went into it, and then when you do figure out an end result, you want to